First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Before we start our keynote Q&A, just a couple of announcements. I'm Jim Tremayne from DJ Times Magazine, DJ Expo. I want to thank everybody for supporting DJ Expo 2018 and our move to the new venue at Harrah's. Thank you all for coming out. Today, the exhibit hall is going to be open until 6 o'clock. It'll also be open from 11 to 3 tomorrow. Additionally, we would love for you to check out the demo rooms, which I'm sure you've heard at some point walking up here. Additionally, we will have a couple of parties tonight that we'd love to come. We'd love to have you attend. From 8 to 11 at Golden Nugget, the Haven nightclub, which is off premises but nearby. We'll have the Entertainer of the Year competition. So all you mobile DJs who want to see who really knocks himself out this year and wins the trophy and wins prizes, head over to Haven. Then we're going to have our after party that's going to be sponsored by Bass Boss in the Eden Lounge tonight. That'll feature DJ Scribble and DJ Scratch together, spinning together, which is something special and we're looking forward to. And we're going to have opening act Mero Music from Warsaw, Poland, performing, and he's a terrific DJ and producer. So, let's move on to the keynote Q&A. First of all, I want to introduce two DJ legends from New York City, on my left, on your right, from one of the greatest turntablist crews in American history. Please welcome Mista Sinista and Rob Schwitt from the X-Ecutioners. And on my right or left, really one of the legends of the DJ scene, the inventor of the scratch. And he's one of the guys, along with some of the others in the Bronx, who were the original pioneer innovators. The kind of person that, like, honestly, if it wasn't for this man and then a few others, there would be no DJ scene, there would be no DJ Times, there would be no DJ Expo. So please give a big welcome to GrandWizzard Theodore. So we're going to get into a little background here on the origins of hip-hop, but also the origins of turntablism and how it has evolved, and hopefully we can get to just the very notion of what a DJ is anymore. We might have some conflicting opinions, I might imagine. Rob and I have discussed this a little bit. But you know, the DJ scene has changed dramatically, and even the turntablism scene has some conflicts within it, and we definitely want to get to that, and we will take your questions towards the end. But I just want to start out with Sin and Rob, and I just want to ask them, when did music and DJing come into your consciousness? What was the thing that made you think, I gotta do that?
I know for me, I grew up in a family that was very musically inclined. Like, my mother listened to a lot of James Brown records, my grandma listened to a lot of jazz.
That's how we start.
Yeah, I was around it all, thank you. I was around it all, and at a young age, I just got taken in by it. They were playing it all the time. I started to feel the music. I started to like it at a young age. I started to dance to it. I have old videos of me dancing to the music. And from that moment on, it might sound weird, but from that moment on, at 5 years old, I knew that this was what I was going to do, that I was into music heaven. That's how it started for me.
Rob?
I was fortunate enough to have a father that DJed. So I would actually help my dad pack his equipment, transport it to churches, halls, people's houses, all over the tri-state area, and watch him control a room full of people without ever opening his mouth, just by the music selection that he had and the way he played the music, the order. That was my first example of what a DJ does. I was also fortunate enough to grow up with an older brother that immersed himself in that first wave of hip-hop that, you know, dudes like Theodore helped usher it into this country, and obviously it ended up spreading throughout the world. My brother is Theo. What, you're like 18 now? 18 years old?
Yes, I am 18.
Right? It's an inside joke. So my older brother's about Theo's age. So he would introduce me to a lot of the like Park Jam tapes with GrandWizzard Theodore. He'd explain to me what Theodore and DJs like Theodore were doing on these tapes, how they were looping beats so that the rappers could rap. And I got an education on hip hop through my brother. So between my dad and my brother, how could you not, as a young man in the house, not want to take after your older brother and your dad? So eventually, I got tired of spectating, and I wanted to take part in playing music. And at 12 years old, I asked my brother to teach me how to DJ, and he did, and I haven't looked back since.
And Theo, you come from a slightly different generation, but one that really was the origin story of hip-hop. But before hip-hop was invented by you and a lot of these other guys, what was the thing that got you into music? What was the thing that made you think, I want to pursue this?
Well, I mean, pretty much, pretty much like Sinista, you know, my family was, you know, I mean, music is a soundtrack to our lives, you know. You know, I learned that at an early age. I mean, my mom's played music when she was happy. She played music when she was sad. She played music when she was cooking. She played music when she was cleaning. She played music when she was ready to kick our butts for doing something we wasn't doing, you know? And I feel that I was born into this. I was born into the whole music culture, period. You know? I mean, looking at Soul Train and looking at American Bandstand and if I lived on the 5th floor and I'm walking downstairs and get to the 4th floor, I'm hearing Jamaican music, get to the 3rd floor, I'm hearing salsa merengue, get to the 3rd floor, I'm hearing jazz and all that stuff, and then I get to the 2nd floor and you hear break beats and b-boy music. You know, that's just the way, you know, I was brought up, and I was just born into this culture, man, into music, period. And when I first seen 2 turntables in the mixer, is when I seen it, Grandmaster Flash and my brother Mean Gene. When I seen them with the 2 turntables in the mixer, man, it was like 1971, 72. I knew right then and there that I was already born into something that I didn't really quite understand yet. Because when I was into hip hop, I was a b-boy. I loved to dance. That was my way of getting whatever energy I had in my body. You know, living in a single parent home, going to school for 8-9 years and still not learning anything, seeing abandoned buildings being, you know, burned every day, drug dealers in the street, just basically the things that surrounded us in the city, and that's how I grew up, you know.
But also out of desperation and conflict, a lot of times comes great art, and that's what we got with the hip-hop scene. And so you were talking about your brother Mean Gene and also Grandmaster Flash. Back in the days in the Bronx, there always seemed to be a real apprenticeship going on from one DJ handing down to another. So you were considered more of a protege of Grandmaster Flash, right?
Yeah, Grandmaster Flash, my brother Mean Gene. Yeah, like I was down with the crew when it was time to carry records. I would carry records. They had this place called Downstairs Records in the train station. And I know some of y'all know what I'm talking about. When you go down to the train station, it was a record shop right there. And, you know, you got the guy inside who's playing 45s all day long. They had a pinball machine there. If you hit 10,000 points in the pinball machine, he'd give you a 45. You end up buying another 45. And I was a pinball player, so I used to go down there and spend hours and hours down there just playing pinball and end up buying one record and then end up getting another. And at the end of the day, when I came back uptown to my brother Flash and Mean Gene, I have a stack of 45s and just give it to them and just go through them and then just add it to their collection, you know?
And forgive me, all the hip hop heads out there, who we're going to get into a little bit of hip hop history right now, but part of the rudiments, or there's really a big three in the Bronx that started. I'm going to ask Rob Swift the importance of Kool Herc. His influence, he really broke the mold. He was like the first DJ to throw parties where the breaks and the records were emphasized and repeated. How deep did that influence go?
We're here today.
There we go.
And I mean, I marvel at the pioneers like Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Flash, Theodore, because the thing about it is Herc started this renaissance in the 70s of music. At the time you had punk rock, for example. The punk rock scene was starting to blow up. And Herc in the Bronx was the catalyst for what's happening today with DJs and these companies that pump out gear every month and you're spending thousands of dollars on a mixer. Back then, no one knew that the art of DJing with regards to hip hop is concerned would catch fire and become a commodity. You know, you become a DJ now to make money, whereas in Herc's day, you became a DJ because you love music. So I feel like Herc's influence is undeniable, and truth of the matter is we owe a lot to him because, you know, when he got into this and through the first hip hop jam, which we just celebrated the birthday of hip hop last Saturday, turned 45, and I don't think that he did so. I don't think he threw this party, him and his sister, with the intentions of 45 years later, us being in Atlantic City celebrating DJs. So his influence is unquestionable.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get him to do one of these in the next 7 years. I want to toss this out for Sin. Talk a little bit about the influence of Africa Bambaataa, and not just his influence in the Bronx, but also, you know, all the crazy records he brought into the hip hop world. He was the one who sort of brought downtown to uptown.
Yes, yes. Because of Africa Bambaataa, I mean, there's so many great beats to this day. Like, people play the ultimate breaks beats. There's so many more breaks other than that, and I just realized that myself. When I play, I usually try to find rare breaks that nobody plays. Africa Bambaataa was a wizard with that. Like, I went to a party one day that he was doing, and he was spinning the spot in Brooklyn, and I finally got a chance to see him. And he just had so much stuff that I've never heard in my life. Like, it was incredible. Like, I didn't even know all those records existed when I heard when he was playing. There was just so much things coming back to back. He's had so much influence on, especially uptown to downtown, because people listen to him. People listen to all the stuff he's playing, and people really didn't know the stuff he was playing. They were like, wow, like, we didn't even know this stuff existed. So a lot of more people started paying attention to him. A lot more people started digging. I think he's responsible for a lot of people that are digging for more stuff. Because back then, you know, I'm pretty sure Theo knows this. Like, we settled back then, like, for our generation, we settled for going to the store and getting like the regular breaks and beats. We weren't really digging. Africa Bambaataa made it to where people were actually going out and digging for breaks, digging for rare breaks to find. And actually not telling you what they were, so you can find out on your own. You can actually go dig, which is not really, it's very rare today because you can download things. Back then, if you needed to do records, you had to go get it. You had to know it. They wouldn't tell you what it was. You know, the Africa Bambaataa especially wouldn't tell you what it was. Definitely, there's a couple of times I asked him, and he was like, look, you just gotta go listen to it and find it. And I respected him for that. You know, it made me, as a DJ, appreciate the fact of going to dig for records. His influence is major.
And he was bringing in a lot of freaky European music that a lot of people in the Bronx were not listening to.
That's right, that's right. He was playing it all. It was unlimited with him.
Yeah, that's the connection to Kraftwerk with hip-hop.
Yes.
And real quick, something that I'd like to also add with regards to Bambaataa is, from what I know and from what's been passed down to me from the elders, or my elders, of this culture, hip-hop, Bam is responsible for sort of initiating the idea that the different elements of hip hop come under one umbrella. Because in the 70s, you had DJs, you had MCs, you had B-boys, and you had the graph writers. And Bam had this like utopia sort of image in his mind regarding these different elements combining and conjoining into one big hip-hop sort of tree. So Bam, I think conceptually gets a lot of credit for the culture aspect of hip-hop. And whereas I think back then maybe if you were a B-boy, you were kind of like hanging amongst B-boys and vibing with B-boys. If you were a graffiti writer, from what I know and from what I've been told and taught, a lot of graffiti writers were actually not necessarily hip-hop enthusiasts. They were just bombing trainers, and they were artists. But Bam kind of initiated this like joining together, like a conglomerate of sorts of different talents. And so what we know now is hip-hop, the 4 elements: b-boying, MCing, graffiti, DJing, and uniting those 4 elements really is a result of Bambaata's concept of what this culture could be.
And he was always somebody who had a greater vision anyway. He was a community organizer. He was an ex-gang member who, you know, who can tell a gang to chill out except another gang guy? so that had a very, very deep influence within the Bronx, but he also made one of the most important records in the history of recorded music, which is Planet Rock. And, you know, that brought in Kraftwerk with hip-hop sounds. And probably the best description I ever heard of Planet Rock was by Nelson George. He said it sounded like a spaceship landing in the ghetto. And, you know, it kind of does. I want to ask Theodore, when that record came out, what was that like in New York City?
Oh, man. It was like, well, first, during that time, we took hip-hop uptown to downtown. You know, the Grill, Cafeteria, 1018, and places like that. And it was a whole new world for us. And it was a whole new world for the people that would listen to us. I mean, you had doctors and lawyers and people all different colors, you know, and everybody was just...
This was not the disco fever, this was beyond that.
Yes, yes. It was like one nation under a group, you know? You walk into a party and you see all different ethnic people from different backgrounds, and everybody's partying to one specific kind of music. And it was good because we knew that at that time, hip-hop was definitely on its way to being something great, you know? And, you know, Bambaata played a major part into introducing, you know, our culture to the people downtown. And I think that was a very, very pivotal moment for hip-hop.
But that record also broke out beyond New York. If you watch any of the really good hip-hop documentaries like Hip Hop Evolution, which I think you can see on Netflix, a lot of DJs talk about, you know, one car goes by, it's Planet Rock. They go upstairs, it's Planet Rock. They go in the store, it's Planet Rock. They go to the party, it's Planet Rock. Everywhere. And I mean, I was in college in Georgia at the time, and we definitely heard it down there on college radio. So it broke out a long way, and it carried the genre beyond New York City. One more original 3 member would be Grandmaster Flash. I want to ask. I'm going to start down here because I want to end up with Theodore telling a particular story. But what do you think the lasting impact of Grandmaster Flash as a DJ is?
For me, I feel like Flash's impact on this art is everlasting. It's infinite. Whereas you had Herc and Bam, Kool Herc, for example, the allure of Herc was his sound system. He had the best sound system in the Bronx. And you knew that when you were going to a Herc party, shit was going to be super loud. And back then, that was how you would judge a DJ, was by his sound system. And obviously he had records and he introduced inner city kids to Jamaican vibes and rock. You know, back then hip hop wasn't necessarily what people consider to be hip hop today. Hip hop was really what you were doing to the records and the collage that you were painting sonically with music. You could take a jazz song and mix it with a rock song, and then follow that rock song up with a soul song by James Brown. You know, so you could play 3 different genres by 3 distinctly different artists back to back, but somehow it would make sense. And that's what DJs like Herb and Bambaataa were doing. But Flash brought more of a technique, more of a science to DJing. So it wasn't just about playing an obscure record for Flash. It was about figuring out a science to curating a set that would be, let's say, an hour, and being very meticulous and technical about how to transition between these different songs. I don't mean this in any kind of disrespectful way, but I've seen her play, and he's not necessarily up there beat juggling or like doing flare scratches or transformer scratches. I've seen her play, and for the most part, her plays the way my dad played back then, which is, you know, you pick the needle up, you drop it on the record, and you let it play. And usually, DJs would just let the song start to kind of fade out and then transition into the next song. And Herc did initially Herc did kind of like start thinking about how to extend breaks, but Flash, Grandmaster Flash, really added technique to it. The clock theory, quick mix theory, backspinning, like looping a sound over and over again. These are techniques that Grandmaster Flash employed, and to this day, what you see a DJ like myself or Mista Sinista do harkens back. The origins are Grandmaster Flash from the technique standpoint.
Right, yeah, he mastered the technique and the technology.
Right.
Yeah, I think he invented a headphone cue for himself as well.
Yeah, so back then, it's not like it is now. And obviously, technology has evolved so much since the 1970s. So back then, the majority of the mixers didn't have crossfaders. They had up and down faders. Right. And you were lucky. You had to have money to have a mixer with a headphone cueing switch. Yeah. Most mixers that had headphone cue switches were the kind of mixers that you would find at the radio. So like a WBLS or 98.7 KISS, you know, radio stations that could spend that kind of money on a mixer that allows you to cue up the next song you want to play before your audience hears it. But Flash, again, being the chemist, the alchemist that he is, went to Radio Shack, bought parts, and created his own external cueing box. And he would travel around with this box whenever he DJed. Before Flash had the vision to build a cueing system, a little cueing box, DJs would literally put their ear to the record, or to the needle, I should say, and pick up the sound from there. Like, talk about, like, you know, being resourceful. Now, you ask a DJ, you know, you could cue up by listening to the needle, they'll look at you crazy. You know, they want to hit the pad on the mixer and get to the sound instantly.
Really? Yeah.
So the resourcefulness of a Grandmaster Flash, of a GrandWizzard Theodore, figuring out a way to coax the sound out of a record, and no one told him to do it, he just stumbled upon it and then nurtured that. And I know we'll talk more about this later on, but that for me is what I covet and cherish about that era, the Flash era, the GrandWizzard Theodore era, was the resourcefulness. And for a DJ like Flash to look at his mixer and decide, you know what, I don't have a queuing system like they do on the radio, I'm just gonna go make one. Today, that won't happen. The DJ would go online and then just, you know, Amazon.com or YouTube and Google.
How do I do
Read right, exactly. Back then, there was more resourcefulness. You figured it out on your own. And I think if it wasn't for DJs like Flash and Theodore, we would not be in this room today.
That's right.
You know?
And necessity is the mother of invention, as I say. And talking about invention, I want to ask Theo a little bit about the invention of the scratch. And so how much had Flash done with regards to scratching and backspinning? And what were you doing that was different from Flash? And how did you arrive at that original scratch?
Well, I mean, you know, like Rob said, you know, Flash, you know, played a major part, you know, as far as like, you know, him extending the break, doing the clock theory, is what we now call a backspin and stuff like that, you know. A lot of DJs, and I'm sure there's a lot of DJs in this room. What DJs at? All the DJs in there?
DJs? Oh,
wow. You know, it's like back in the early days, you know, we would end up listening to the record before we actually played it, you know. And while you're waiting to play that record, you might be baby scratching in the earphones. So basically what I did was I just moved the fader over and let you hear me baby scratching. You know, that's basically what I did, you know. And how I created the scratch is like just in my house practicing, you know, trying to make myself better as a DJ. You know, I mean, as far as the DJ is concerned, you want to make sure that you are different from everybody else. I mean, we naturally have different personalities. You can get 10 people in the room and can't say they got the same personality. That's impossible, you know? So as DJs, we all got different personalities. You might have one person that's like really aggressive, you know? You might have one person that's really laid back and stuff like that. You might have one person that's really technical and stuff like that. So early on, I said to myself, if I want to be noticed as a DJ, I have to make sure that I separate myself from all the other DJs. So basically, what I do is I watch all the other DJs to see their strong points, see their weak points, and make sure I don't make the same mistakes that they made. So now, let me fast forward. When I created the scratch, I was in my last year of junior high school. In 1975, when I was 12 years old, which makes me 21 years old. So my principal played music in the loudspeakers in the lunchroom. Say this is a lunchroom, we all here eating lunch. And my principal was playing music through the loudspeakers. So it got to the point where everybody got tired of listening to the music that my principal was playing. He was playing like Donna Summers and Van McCoy, and he was just playing a lot of disco stuff. People were like, oh, come on, dude, really? Well, dude wasn't out then. What? Mine was. Well, anyway. So, you know, I'm like, wow, you know, I used to hang out with a friend that talked so much. I mean, this guy could not stop talking. Even when he was sleeping, he was probably talking. So he convinced my principal to let me make a cassette tape. He said, look, this guy's name is Theodore, he's a DJ. Let him make a cassette tape and bring it to you when you play through the loudspeakers. So my principal said, okay, I'll make a cassette, I'll listen to it, and then maybe I'll play it. So I went home, because my school was on 166th Street in Boston Road, and I lived 2 blocks away. So I rushed home, took the boombox, put it in front of the speaker, pressed record, and started making my little cassette tape. And during the course of doing that, my mother, the music that we practiced on was in my mother's house. I got the kind of mother where she don't raise her voice, she don't argue, she don't fuss. She just starts swinging like Mike Tyson. Dishes not done, homework's not done. That's my mom. Anyway, so I'm making my cassette tape, and grew into a cassette tape, and the music was so loud in the house to the point where she had to come and practically kick the door open. It felt like she kicked the door open. So she pushed the door open and she looked at me like, what's going on? Like, either cut the music down or cut the music off. Now you DJs know what I'm talking about right now. You got one record playing here. When moms came and startled me, the mixer that I was using didn't have a crossfade. It had an up and down. So when she came in the room, all the up and downs on the mixer went up, which means that I could hear both records at the same time. Now the cassette tape that I was using is 45 minutes on each side. So if you start making a start making a cassette tape and you get like 20 minutes into the cassette and you make one mistake, you got two choices. Either you stop it or you go back to the beginning. Y'all feeling me so far? Yeah. So I was like 20-25 minutes into this cassette and I was really feeling what I was doing. I didn't want to go back and I didn't want to pause. It was just my pride. So I did a baby scratch, pulled the music down. Mom's left the room. I finished my cassette tape, rewind it back, started listening to it. And when it got to the part where she came in the room, I could hear myself baby scratching. I was like, wow, I can incorporate that into all the other things I'm doing as a DJ. So I practiced it another couple of days, another couple of hours, and that's how I became Scratch. I was only 12 years old in 1975, which makes me 21.
Thanks for that, Theodore. I want to also get into some of the early gear setups. What was the first mixer you were playing on?
The first mixer I was playing on, it was like a Kenwood mixer. I kid you not. This mixer was half plastic, half wood, and some other, I don't know what other metal it was. You know? But you know, that's the mixer that we played on, you know, back in the early days. We were like the Flintstones, man, you know? Some of the mixers, they had a mixer called a Bozak mixer. You know? And this mixer had a round knob, you know? So picture you trying to scratch on a round knob, and when you get home, it's like, you know, you got carpal tunnel and stuff like that, you know? You know, it's like all the stuff we use, man, were like the Flintstones, and basically, yeah, it definitely was a Kenwood mixer. And the mixers that we used were like, they look like big giant microwaves. You got one turntable on this side, got a big giant microwave mixer in the middle, and then you got the other turntable on the other side. So it wasn't all about quick mixing. We never did no quick mixing back in those days, because you would have to take a cab to the next turntable. You know what I'm saying? Or really have long arms, you know? And that's just the way it was, man. It was crazy, man.
And let me move into turntables a little bit, because it took a while before Techniques kind of came out with their standard SL1200. You guys were using some other mixers or other turntables as well before, weren't you?
Yeah, we were using like, I mean, you know, they had, as I remember, they had like Kenwood turntables. Thorns, yeah. Hurt was the only one that had Thorn turntables. Thorn turntables were like the biggest turntables I've ever seen in my life.
They were like radio turntables.
Yes, they were gigantic, ginormous. They were really, really big turntables, and Hurt was a really big guy, so it was a really perfect turntable for him, stuff like that, you know? And you know, when Techniques came out with the turntable, it was like, you know, we were able to do a lot of things like, you know, the turntable was really durable, so we was able to do whatever we needed to do with the turntable and stuff like that. It's just that big, thick pad that came with the turntable, we just like tossed it out the window. You know, and DJs had baby powder. You go to DJ's house and we're like, what you got this baby powder for? You know? What we did with the baby powder, we cut up curtains, we cut up cereal boxes, we cut up t-shirts into a round shape like a record. We take a 45, put it on the platter, take the baby powder, put a bunch of baby powder on there, put the record on, and then you got that slide motion. That's what we used to do, you know? So you go to DJ House back in the days, they have this big thing of baby powder, you know? Don't let it fool you. It was a purpose for that. So, you know, so we did what we had to do with it.
And I want to ask Robin Sin, who came up a little bit later, the DJ industry had really kind of got up and running a little bit, but you must, Rob especially, with your dad being a DJ, you must have seen the Geminis and the Newmarks and some of the GLIs and some of these other companies coming up. What was your earliest DJ setup, and what was your evolution?
So my DJ setup was whatever my dad bought. My dad worked in a factory. My parents are Colombian immigrants, and my dad first migrated here like in the late 60s, got settled, then sent for my mom and my brother. I was born in 1972, as early as I could remember, my dad had DJ equipment at home. And the first turntables, he actually still has them at home, and I wish I would have thought to brought them here because I think you guys would have appreciated them. The first turntables that my dad ever owned, he still has them in his house. He had a mismatched pair of Techniques. One was a 1600 and the other was a 1300. The 1200 hadn't been released or created or designed yet. And what I remember distinctively about these two turntables was, you guys know on the Technique 1200, the pitch control to adjust the speed of the song is like a dial that moves to the right if you want to make the song faster, or move the dial to the left and you're slowing the song down. On the 1300 and the 1600, it wasn't a dial, it was a knob. It was a small knob. Think of a receiver or a TV volume control, but like this small, about maybe like half an inch with diameter, right? So what you would do is you would move the knob from left to right. So you move it, let's say, all the way to the right if you wanted to speed the song up, or you would move the knob to the left to slow it down. And as doofy as those turntables were, I'm so thankful that I learned on them, because being forced to move this damn knob, right? and look at the platter to monitor and judge how slow the platter, if I was affecting the speed or not, and listening really taught me how to mix by ear. So as ancient and prehistoric as the equipment was that my dad had, it really helped me develop my skill, which is sort of like, to a DJ today, it doesn't compute. Like, how could you develop your skill on whack-ass equipment like that? But the limitations that the equipment had made me figure out how to DJ better. So whereas now, because of technology and because there are really no limitations, you have mixers that literally scratch for you. DJs that are learning this art now, millennial DJs that are just picking this up, aren't forced to be resourceful the way Theodore was, the way Grandmaster Flash was. So you would think that the technology would make DJing better. And I'm not saying that there aren't dope DJs out, modern young DJs. The kid that won the DMC last year is a beast. And he's like 13 years old, 12 years old. So there are good DJs, but in general, it's making DJs lazy. And another little anecdote that I'd like to add, the first mixer that I ever learned how to DJ, the first mixer that I ever touched had those knobs. It didn't have crossfaders. So I learned how to stab like Grandmaster Flash and do baby scratches like GrandWizzard Theodore on a not a fader, on a mixer with the knob. So I would go like and like move the knob like from so if you were closing the fade, if you want a left turntable, you had to move the knob all the way to the right, not to hear sound. So I would like literally taught myself all the GrandWizzard DSC stabs on Wild Style at the end. I taught myself that on a knob fader. And then when you put me on a regular fader, then I started killing those stabs even harder because I learned on a knob, you know, and things did become easier. But as far as the equipment is concerned, you know, we're here at this DJ Expo, and the whole point of it is to see what new equipment, you know, these companies are releasing. But like the true, authentic art of DJing isn't about the equipment. It's not about the turntables. It's not about what kind of mixer you have. It's about what's here, like your ideas, and like are you able to transfer what you hear in your mind out of your fingertips onto the records so that other people could kind of like experience what you hear in your mind. You know what I mean? That's what this art is about, not the latest, fanciest, most expensive piece of equipment.
So before we open it up, just a couple more topics I want to quickly tackle. I want to ask this to Sin. When did turntablism and the battle scene become a thing for you? When did it become something where all of a sudden you had these crews running around and battling each other? When did it happen for you, and what influenced you to get involved in that?
Well, for me, way back in the days, like, you know, people from here, I used to listen to like 98.7 Kids, BLS, of course. If anybody remembers, you know, he could be Red Alert. Next week it'd be Chuck Chill Out. Red
Alert was on Friday. Chuck Chill Out was on Saturday. So it was every week.
Correct. Stand corrected, but then it would be the Latin Rascals, and then it would be the In Control show. I grew up in the era of that, listening to the radio, and before that, I was oblivious to any battle things. I don't even know what I heard on the radio at that point, so I was really being influenced by listening to that. So one day, my boy, he comes over to my house and he tells me about this dude called Dr. Butcher. And he's like, yo, man, this guy, man, like, he's really dope. You know, I thought I was really good. I was like, man, I'll burn him, man. He's whack. Where's he at? He's like, I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna bring you to his house. So I go to his house with the little stuff that I know, just learned from the radio. I go to his house. And he was cool. He said what's up to me, real humble. And then he sat there. We decided who's gonna get on first. So I said, he's like, oh, man, get on. I'm like, nah, you get on, man. So anyway, to make a long story short, when he gets on, I didn't get on after that. that was the end of my thinking that I was really ill. It was over. It was over after that. What I loved about it was Drew, the aka Dr. Butcher. He's the one that introduced me to the DJ circuit, because he was watching these crews like the X-Men before I was down. He was watching all these different crews, and he was playing these tapes. And then I got exposed to that type of DJ battle, and just seeing him and seeing what he was playing and seeing how he played was like, I gotta get like that. At the same time, Rob was over there, he was practicing with Rob. And Rob was coming over as a student, and Rob was over there, and me and Rob ended up hooking up. And Rob exposed me to more tapes. And from that point on, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted people to know that I can be that ill. I wanted to be that ill. I wanted to be that dude. And I wanted to do what those dudes did. And just from seeing all these different tapes of different crews like Superman and seeing the X-Men and seeing all these other DJs come up, it just exposed me to that type of DJ. And I got influenced, and that's what it started for me.
So I got to ask the two New York City turntablist DJs here, what were you guys thinking when all of a sudden these cats from Northern California started dropping shit all over the place? Was that like a challenge for you, or were you just like, oh shit, we're in trouble?
Well,
we're talking about like
right. So just to give you guys some context, and I'm gonna try to make this as fast as I can because I know we're running out of time. But this is important information. And I'm gonna answer your question, Jim. Number one, I had the same exact experience with Dr. Butcher that Sinista had. Same exact experience. My boy Juju from the Beatnuts. At the time, there were no Beatnuts. We were just these kids in Queens hanging out, and he was like, yo, I know that you love this DJ shit, I'm gonna take you to my boy Dr. Butcher's house. And I was like, I heard of him, you can take me to his house, I'm pretty sure I'm better than you. And he was like, alright, on this day I'm gonna take you to his crib, you should meet this guy, Rob. I'm like, alright, whatever. So he takes me to his house, and at the time, I just like Sin, I learned by listening to the radio. There was no YouTube, there was no smartphones, there was no Instagram, there were no DJ tutorials. So I would listen to Chuck Chill Out, Red Alert, Molly Mall, study what they did on the weekends, buy the records on Sunday, literally copy everything that they did from beginning to end that weekend. And that's how I taught myself the techniques that my brother wasn't able to teach me. Then I started listening to a college radio show, courtesy of Johnny Juice, who did all the, not all, but a lot of the original scratches on the early PE albums. He had a college radio show that I would listen to, and Johnny Juice would play excerpts of DMC battles. DMC battles, they obviously still happen today, but back then, you know, I'm like a 15, 16-year-old kid that doesn't know where to go to some battle. So I would listen to the radio, and thankfully Juice would play audio excerpts, and that's where I got introduced to Cash Money, Cutmaster Swift. So then I would listen to what they were doing, and then buy the records, teach myself the moves. So by the time I got introduced to Dr. Butcher, in my head I thought, I could do what Cash Money does, I could do what Cutmaster Swift does, I could do what Marley does, or Red Alert does, what Chuck Chilla does. Man, there's no way this guy's better than me, because I can do everything that these guys can do. And then when I got to Drew's house, he was like, yeah, go ahead. I'll open a set to you. Like, I guess he has like his tactic for when he gets to his house. So he let me go on first, and I did every rendition of a DJ that had a dope routine that was out. I had their records, and I just got it. So, for example, Steve D had a routine with a Houdini song called Friends. I learned his pattern and did the Friends pattern, and thought, there's no way this guy can do any of this stuff. And then Drew got on and murdered me. And the reason he did so, not just skill-wise was he more advanced, but conceptually, he wasn't sounding like Steve D. He wasn't sounding like Aladdin. He wasn't sounding like Chuck Chilla. He sounded like Dr. Butcher. And I remember he sat me down and he was like, Rob, you're great at copying. you have to be great at being yourself. So let's develop your own identity as a DJ. Now, by the time this is 1990, Jim. So in 1991, I entered my first battle. That whole year, from 1990 to 1991, we trained, Dr. Butcher trained me for about, I want to say 8 months. Wow. Straight. We trained like monks at the Shaolin Temple. I was at his house Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. He would come to me, we'd get home from work like 5:45. I was there at 6, ready to train.
You basically slept there.
Yeah. And his girlfriend hated me. Hated me. So we were trained for a year. What up, Keisha? We trained for a year. He married her now, too. He's married to her.
Got kids and everything.
We trained for a year, and then in 1991, I entered my first battle, and I placed 3rd in the East Coast DMC. And that year was the year that Qbert from the West Coast, the Bay Area, got into the DMC as well. In the Bay Area, made it all the way to the American finals. And I go through all that to say, Qbert didn't necessarily, like, it was interesting because at the time, there were no real popular Asian DJs. DJs back then, you were either black, white, or Hispanic. So I remember when I first saw Qbert, I remember when Dr. Butcher and I first saw Qbert, we thought he was Hawaiian. We thought he was this, who's this Hawaiian guy? Because he had like, I think there was footage of him like with a lei on and like this crazy hat, we just assumed he was from Hawaii, and we realized, no, he's Filipino. And there's like all these other Filipino DJs in the Bay, and then like, we started catching wind of dudes like Mixmaster Mike and Apollo and Shortcut, and the list goes on and on. And they didn't scare us. If anything, seeing them motivated us to practice harder. It was more of a thing where like it was inspiration to see these guys.
Step up your game.
Yeah.
So I have one really quick question for Rob before we open it to the floor, and I'll go a little bit over today since we sort of blazed through 52 minutes already. So the DJ scene now, kids, and Rob teaches at the new school in New York City, so he talks to a lot of young people who have maybe some dreams, musical dreams, but a lot of the DJs, or a lot of the young people I talk to at the festivals, they always sort of, these days are sort of more aspiring to be the next, you know, Tiesto or the next Calvin Harris or the next sort of EDM star. And, you know, a lot of them don't really know that much about the roots of DJing, and certainly turntablism is in a different place from where it was when you guys were coming up. What do you tell kids who want to become the EDM DJs? Do you say, hey, maybe you ought to go check out some of the origins?
Yes, I do say that because, see, if you're a young person, let's say 18 years old, and you haven't been exposed to DJing, and the first example that you have of what a DJ does is a Calvin Harris.
A festival DJ.
A festival DJ, right, exactly. Then the prism through which you're gauging what DJing is so limited, because there are a plethora of styles with regards to DJ that exist.
And even within electronic music.
Even within electronic music. And then there's house DJs and club DJs and radio DJs and mobile DJs. So if that is your introduction to what the art form is, and you decide that's what you want to do, if you're not exposing yourself to what else is out there, then you might be sacrificing a lot of creativity, and you may not be tapping into potential that you're not aware even exists inside you. You know what I mean? So I always push my students to embrace all there is to DJing. Like, learn mixing and have fun mastering that just as much as you would understanding how to perform a baby scratch or a transformer or the more modern scratches. And then teach yourself how to backspin. And then after you get all those techniques down, study music. Like, the thing about DJing that I feel has changed for the worse over the years, since Theodore's time and Flash's time, is that when they were DJing, they didn't discriminate with regards to genre of music. If a song sounded good, it was getting played, regardless of whether it was a punk rock song or an R&B song or a soul song or a disco song. The breaks that we scratch they cross.
It could be a Thin Lizzy record.
Right, exactly. It was, does this sound good? Does it have a dope beat? What do I feel when I play it? Now it's like DJs, they say that they're open format, but what they really do is jump online, and this is not me being a hater or you know, trying to like impose my philosophy on anyone, but what I see DJs do now is they say on their IG pages, it'll say open format, and then you watch their IG videos and they're playing all top 40. So it's like, what is open format to use? Open format, you take requests and you play whatever people ask you to play. So you play Beyonce or Drake or, you know, whoever. Or it's open format, you know your fucking music. You understand genres. You know how different genres work. You have an eclectic taste in sound, and you can DJ for any audience. I don't just necessarily mean, you know, a wedding or a club. I mean any audience. Like I take as much pride DJing for my parents and their friends as I would everyone in this room, or a room full of turntablists. I just appreciate playing music. So, though, you know, when I think about this art and how much it's changed, those are some of the changes that I feel have been for the worse. And I'm hoping that Q&As like this. I'm glad that we're doing this, Jim, because people are recording, and I know that this little Q&A is going to reach more people, and hopefully it'll open minds to what DJing is. If you like EDM, DJing, by all means, immerse yourself in that culture, learn about it, understand it, but you want to be the kind of DJ that could play in front of anybody at any time, and for that reason, I am super thankful and grateful that I came up under my dad, my brother, under legends like Theodore, because they all helped me understand the importance of understanding music, not just being a DJ, but music and harmonizing with sound and how frequencies alter and influence people on the dance floor.
Cool. So, thank you guys. Questions, but just a couple guidelines. One, tell me your name, where you're from, and please, please, please ask a question and do not make a speech. Thank you.
I'm DJ Joe Storm, DMV Fleet DJs, Baltimore, Maryland. I heard y'all talking about, I just was listening about the Final Scratch, and you was talking about 2001. I was like, what is this? I kind of had that same type of situation because, you know, I started on turntables and I went to CDJs, and then I just recently, within the last 2 or 3 years, started using the software. How do y'all feel about the transition? Because the thing about it is just looking at the, man, I'm nervous. Y'all letters, man.
All right.
Sorry. Just looking at the situation as far as people having a laptop face. Like I was looking at a video recently where the guy was talking about they look at their laptop all the time. Like I try to keep my laptop to the side.
That goes on in EDM too. There's always DJs being accused of looking like they're checking their emails and not really interacting so much with the crowd. And that, believe it or not, that's a topic of conversation for a decade, even among the festival DJs and the DJs who are playing house and techno music.
Yeah, because really it's like, even if the BPMs are off, it's like beat matching my ears like the best thing ever. Because, you know, sometimes this can happen, you know.
Here's my take on this. Technology is amazing. We have to evolve. That's just the way the world works. But never forget that these techniques that we apply as DJs were created before laptops and mixers that could scratch for you were ever produced and released. So when you're DJing, understand that it's you and if left to your devices, can you play a medley of music for an hour and keep people engaged? That's really what it comes down to. Not the kind of equipment that you have. It's, do you know music? Do you understand people? Can you connect with those people through the music that you play and what you do to the music? It's really that simple. And what kind of mixer you have, you know, what kind of needles you're using, what kind of laptops running, the DJ software, that's all extra curricular stuff that like really at the end of the day should not impact your connection with this art and what you're doing as a DJ. So don't let like companies phase out the true authentic approach to DJing. Like we, the people in this room, the DJs, dictate to the companies what DJing is. It shouldn't be the other way around. So just always remember that.
Cool. Well, thank you.